Hello people, and welcome to Crypto Exposed. Okay guys, I have an absolutely great video here that I want to cover, and this is a debate between Micke and Noaty. Vet also jumps in as well. If you don't know who Vet is a validator on the XRP ledger. But yeah, it's mainly Noaty and Micke. And this is basically a debate of XRP versus XLM. And I just want to say this. This is an incredible debate. It really is. I cannot recommend this enough. This was such a great debate. I really enjoyed it. And this is what we call a real debate, right? And this is why when I covered the crypto bellwether debate versus, Vandal of Black Swan Capitalist, this is why I was critical of Vandal, because this is what a debate should be. Like, when you see how Micke performed in this debate, this is exactly how a debate should be. This is the difference of when you know someone who actually understands the actual technology and understands XRP on a deeper level, right? Because this was a great back and forth, and Micke was actually able to counter the things that Noaty was saying. And don't get me wrong, Noaty had some great points, but Micke was always there with an answer, to be honest with you. So let me just say this before I get into it. I am an XRP holder and I am also an XLM holder. I'm more of an XRP holder and believer than XLM, but I do hold XLM as well. Okay. So just to make that clear, that for me, to be honest with you, I hold both. So I want them both to be successful ultimately, but it's just so when you hear my perspectives, it's not me trying to be more one-sided than the other. I hold both of them, so I actually want success for both tokens. But this is just me adding my 2 cents into the debate, right? So, look, there was a lot to cover here. I'm going to try and condense it down because my video will probably be long, but I just want to touch on some of the points that have been said and just give some additional thoughts on this. So, look, I'm going to say this first and foremost. Respect to everyone involved. Noaty, respect to you. Micke, respect to you. Vet, respect to you. You all did absolutely incredible. Really great debate here. This was really good. And I want to say to Noaty specifically, I really respect what you're doing here because it's you who's really going out to try and have the debates. And what I like is that you're not afraid to potentially be like proven wrong. Like, he does seem to me like someone who genuinely wants to learn. And that's what I respect, because this is the thing, yeah, I do a lot of this content about XRP and stuff, and I always say this, like, if anyone can prove me wrong, do it. Like, I'm not here to act like, I know everything, but no one has been able to, change my viewpoint when it comes to just realistic expectations of XRP. And I feel like with Noaty, the one thing I will say that I picked up from this debate is that even when Micke gave really great arguments, it didn't seem like Noaty wanted to take it on board. That's the only thing I will say. Like, he's having the debate, but even when Micke had some really good points, and I could tell there was a little time where, like, there was odd little points where, like, he went silent for just a little minute, so I could tell he's having to, like, think about his response. And I think it was one of those where it's like, oh, that's a good point. It didn't seem like he wanted to take it on board. That's the only thing I will say. But I really respect Noaty because, look, we're all adults here, and at the end of the day, we haven't always got to be on the same page to just respect each other. And this is what I say to people, like, in my comment section and stuff like that. Like, this whole thing where you come in with, like, the childish antics and saying, like, you're an idiot because you don't believe XRP is going to, like, $10,000 and stuff like that. You need to grow up, right? Like, you need to be adults about this. At the end of the day, we can all agree to disagree, but we're all in the same token at the end of the day. So it's like, I want XRP to do well regardless, whether I think it's going to $20, $10, or whether you guys think he's going to $10,000. We all just want to make money. That's what we're here for. So it's like, we can all have like this agree to disagree, right? Like, at the end of the day, it's not like I've got anything against people who believe this kind of stuff. I'm just trying to give you guys the realistic alternative. And yeah, for me, this is the way you do it. You have debates like this, and this is why I think it's really good, because as I said before, it shows you the influencers who actually know what they're talking about and the ones who are just pushing nonsense. And for me, Micke showed that he really understands XRP. He definitely does. Like, his knowledge is there. I cannot fault that at all. And so I'm going to say this, like, from watching this debate, in my opinion, Micke had it. I'm just going to be honest with you. For me, Micke won this debate he was very concise with the way he explained things. I could tell that sometimes Noaty was getting a bit off track, and I could tell with some of the things that Noaty would debate, I could tell that this was like some of his issues with XRP. It's not specific to XRP, okay, and I'll touch on that now. So what do I mean by this? So my thing with Noaty, what I'm starting to realize just from watching some of his videos and just seeing him in the debates and stuff like that, I think there's two things here. One, I think the problem with Noaty is he bases a lot of his issues around Ripple. Now, look, I'm not here to act like Ripple isn't tangled with XRP. It is, like, they are very connected. But we have got to still acknowledge that, like, Ripple is just a developer on the XRP ledger. They are not like the only developers to the XRP ledger, but they are the biggest. Like, let's not front about that. That is just the plain truth, right? That's just the fact. But they're not the only developer on the XRP ledger. And so I do feel like, you know, when he's making some of these arguments, it's because he's just basing it solely around Ripple. And so what you've got to understand is, like, for people like me who are like realistic with XRP, I'm not just relying on Ripple to bring value to the XRP ledger, right? There's a whole ecosystem out there, and then you've got to understand that there's other developers. So when you do go to, like, for example, other chains like Ethereum don't just have one big company, one big developer to their network, right? They're not just relying on one big developer. There's all sorts of developers out there. And that's what I think it should be in terms of XRP. Now, again, we can't escape the fact that, you know, Ripple have the largest holding of XRP, etc. So yes, you know, we're not going to escape that fact. That's true. But there are other people out here developing on the XRP ledger and bringing value to it, right? And so this is the thing that I think we've noticed. The problem is that he's basing everything around Ripple. And when you're only basing it around Ripple, yes, you are going to have a bit of a skewed view about that, right? I can completely understand that. And I think that's where sometimes, like, his arguments fall a bit short. The other thing that I will say is, Noaty comes across to me as someone who's very, like, humanitarian, right? And what I mean by that is, like, one of the reasons why he really likes XLM is because it's not for profit, whereas Ripple is for profit. And, like, while I think, you know, that's cool if you're someone who, you know, you want to just help the world and you know, you believe in charity and things like that, that's fine. But we do live in a capitalist society. Like, that's what makes the world, right? And so to me, like, making some of your arguments based on the fact that Ripple is for profit, I don't think that's really a strong enough argument as to saying why XLM is better. So I will touch on that a little bit more because there's points I discovered in the debate. But yeah, like, that's one of the things that I've noticed Noaty was bringing up a lot in this debate. And, you know, like, Micke breaks it down great. And I agree. Like, you know, just because a company is for profit, it doesn't mean that that's necessarily just like a bad thing. And, you know, Micke gives a great point as to why it actually can be a good thing. And I agree with this. And I'll touch on this in a minute. But, yeah, like, if people want to make money, like, that's the world we live in, right? That's how we survive. We make money to survive. And I don't think it's wrong to, like, make a crypto that you ultimately want to use as a business and ultimately want to, you know, make money from. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you should deceive people and things like that and do like pump and dumps and scams and stuff like that. But I'm saying if you want to make a legitimate business off of the back of your crypto, then, you know, is that really such a bad thing? If it's something that can help the world, but it's something that you profit from, you know, like, if I was to start a network tomorrow, is it only going to be good if I was to make it a non-profit crypto? You know, like, if I was to make something with an amazing use case with a crypto, is it bad that I actually would want to make it so that that crypto network and that crypto would then be like my livelihood? It's something that I actually base my whole life on and can live off. Like, is that really so wrong? Do you see what I'm saying? So that's like part of my argument there. But let's really get into some of these points then, so I can like break this down a bit more. Okay, so one of the first things I'll go into is Noaty mentioned that XLM performed better than XRP in the last bull run. Okay, so straight away with that, like, you know, Micke never mentioned this, but like, let's just be realistic. Like, at the end of the day, XRP was going through a lawsuit. like straight away, like, to me, that's like, okay, you can argue that, but we have a reason as to why we can say that XRP didn't perform. Like, you know, the lawsuit was there. Now, let's see what happens this bull run, right? Like where XRP is still able to be traded in America. There's not as many restrictions. Like the lawsuit is still there. So, you know, that's still going to be a bit of a gray area. But in terms of the status of XRP, it's all sorted. So in my opinion, XRP should still be able to run. It should still be able to have a bull run rally, because at the end of the day, the availability is still there for XRP and the status isn't being, argued. And, you know, while I will say that I do think if the lawsuit wasn't there, XRP would have the chance to go higher, I don't think it's enough to say that XRP shouldn't hit a new all-time high. So let's see what happens in regards to that. But yeah, in regards to that debate, that argument, for me, straight away, I'm just like, well, yeah, like, you know, there was a lawsuit going on, so it's not really fair to use that as your base case as to why XLM is better. But that's not something that Micke really argued at that point. Okay, then we get into something that I've actually covered before, and this is the big thing about David Schwartz recently saying that XRP, no, sorry, not XRP, that banks will not be Ripple's success story. And so, look, in regards to this, the one thing that I will say we notice is I think he's got a bit of the wrong end of the stick with this, and I think Micke did touch on this a little bit as well. The way Noaty was like kind of like explaining this is like he's saying it as if to say banks are not working with XRP, or, you know, that kind of thing. And I think he's kind of misunderstanding what David Schwartz is saying there. He's not saying that banks are not working with Ripple. What he's basically saying is that he doesn't think that these are ultimately going to be the ones that really drive value to XRP and to Ripple. And, you know, I've said this numerous times, like, you know, I think that's more just regarding XRP and ODL being like a real success, right? I've said it numerous times, like when we look at, for example, you know, the fact that they're going to like the AMM, they're going to stable coins, they're now looking at doing smart contracts, things like this. This is all them doing things now at looking at other ways to bring value to XRP, because, you know, ODL just isn't as successful as they want it to be. At the end of the day, let's just be realistic. If ODL was really this huge success story, they wouldn't need to add these features in. I'm not saying that they couldn't do it, because they still could, but if it was really this raging success that some influencers make it out to be, they wouldn't need to add these things in, because they'd be making money hand over fist through ODL anyway. So it's like, well, why change these things? Like, there's a reason why all this stuff is coming in now. It's because, you know, over time, they're starting to realize, okay, this isn't going as well, so let's look at other things that can bring value. And that's not to say that they'll give up on ODL, and not to say that ODL can't still be a success over time. But I think they're realizing, okay, what can we do in the meantime while we still continue to work on ODL to continue to try and add value to XRP, thus obviously increasing Ripple's value as well. So, you know, that's something that I do think Noaty's kind of got misconstrued just a little bit. But I do think, you know, in terms of that as a point of about ODL, yeah, that's just something we have to accept. I've said this numerous times. And, you know, for me, once I heard that, like, I'd already been saying it before in terms of like ODL not being as successful as people think it is. But when I saw that video specifically, I was like, well, yeah, like there's no arguing that then, is there, right? Like that's just what it is. He's blatantly said it himself. And so, yeah, that's something where, like, it's not to say that banks are not using XRP or won't use XRP. He's just saying that, look, like, this isn't going to be the main factor that really drives Ripple to success. Now, one thing I will say is, like, David Schwartz has kind of added something to this, saying that, like, it's been misconstrued a little bit. But the thing that I will say about that, and I'm going to touch on that in a full video soon as well, he actually says, look, that's not what I meant. Now, the thing that people think I said, I'd probably agree with as well, but that's not what I meant. So I'm like, well, if you're saying you'd probably agree with the thing that people have got it misconstrued as, then you're still not changing what you're saying then, are you? Because even if you're saying, well, this is not what I meant specifically in this point, if you're saying, well, yeah, what people think it is, yeah, I'd probably agree with that too. It's like, well, even if we've got it wrong, you're still agreeing with what we're saying anyway. So it doesn't change anything, right? So there's some people who are kind of like going with that and saying, see, I told you. And it's like, well, no, because he's actually saying as well that he agrees. So nothing has changed. Like, he's agreeing with that too. So to me, like, even the way he's corrected it, okay, fair enough. But it doesn't really matter if we got it wrong, because he's still agreeing with what the people have misconstrued it as. So nothing changes there. Anyway, let's continue on. So yeah, one of the things that like Noaty keeps making a point of when he's talking about XLM is, you know, the price. He's saying, well, you know, XRP has been performing terribly for however many years. And, you know, XLM is like 10x cheaper than XRP. So why not get XLM? And, you know, this is something that Micke says, and I agree with this straight away. This is one of the first things I thought of, is that XLM follows XRP. Like if you look at a chart and just watch a chart together on the timelines together, the time frames, you will see that XLM pretty much follows XRP. Like David Schwartz has addressed it as well not long ago. He said like it's really strange like how identical the charts are for XLM and XRP. And so when you're talking about the price, it's like, well, if XLM follows XRP, what's your argument here, right? Like you're saying that, you know, XRP's not really been performing, but like you're saying it like XLM is way higher. Like XLM has had this huge shooting value, and it is performing way better than XRP, but it isn't. So I don't really get his argument there, and I do think that was one of the things where like he kind of got caught out just a little bit. Now, when it comes to that, like there was other things that like Noaty discussed. Like he was talking about the reasons why when XRP pumps is different to why XLM pumps. And so this was what he was trying to get into. He was saying, well, look, the reason why XRP pumps is because it's like based off of like fake speculation and things like that. But when XLM pumps, it's because of actual utility. I mean, look, my first thing about that is like, how can you really prove what it's pumping on and what it isn't pumping on? Like you're just looking at a chart. So, and if we can see that like the prices are following each other, XRP and XLM, like how are you distinguishing that this is something that's actually based off of like utility or fake news or whatever, right? Like I don't really get it. Cause like, for example, right, when the lawsuit happened, I believe XLM, like when the lawsuit very first came out, I believe XLM took a hit as well. So what exactly are you saying there then? Like, are you saying when XLM got sold off, there was some other reason why XLM got sold off and it had nothing to do with the lawsuit on XRP? Do you know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know how he's thinking that this is based on different things, because if they're moving at the same time, so let's just say, for example, the lawsuit's over, right? And XRP goes up in value, which it did when we first found out XRP is not a security. XLM went up too. So what are you saying that something at that very same time as when the lawsuit was announced was XLM utility as to why it was pumping, not because of the lawsuit? Do you see what I'm saying? Because let's be realistic. XLM is pretty much a copy of XRP, right? Like Jed McCaleb, one of the creators of XRP, he left Ripple because they had a disagreement on where the company was going, and then he pretty much took the code because he helped create the code, and then just made another version of it and called it XLM. So it's pretty similar to XRP, and I think that's where the correlation is, to be honest with you, because a lot of people connect XRP and XLM together. And so, like, I don't really get his argument there as to where he's going with, like, saying, you know, this is pumping because of this, or this one isn't pumping because of this. Like, there's no real tangible way to prove that one way or the other. So if I'll be honest with you, that to me was just wild speculation on his behalf. There wasn't really anything concrete to that. And I do agree with Micke. Like, this is the thing. Like, when he was saying about the price with XRP, right? When he's talking about the price with XRP as compared to XLM, like, one great point that Micke said is like, well, you know, like XRP, has gone through a lot of things, like, for example, the lawsuit, right? Like, there's been issues as to why we can say, well, XRP hasn't performed because of the lawsuit. And, for example, Noaty mentioned that, like, Ripple, he says, you know, dump on retail, for example, and he's saying, like, this is something that affects the price as well. And he's like, well, Micke's saying, well, at the end of the day, if you've got all these reasons as to why XRP is not performing, XLM is not way higher than XRP. And it doesn't have any of these things. It doesn't have a lawsuit against it. It doesn't have a company who is quote unquote dumping on the market. So, like, what's your excuse for XLM's price then? Because XLM isn't like performing way better than XRP. It's not, you know, at a higher price than XRP. So what's your reasoning for that? So, you know, that was a really great argument. Now, I'll give Noaty his props. He says, you know, he feels like this is something that will come more over time. But if you're saying that this is something that could come more over time, then you could say the same thing for XRP, right? Like you could say, well, give XRP more time and XRP's value could also rise in price. So like while I give him that point, you can also argue the same thing for XRP. So again, this is where I feel like, Micke, he kind of got him there. Okay. The next thing that we was going into, was talking about like the volume on XRP compared to XLM. And this is one of the great points where, again, we just got to see just the plain truth here. Because, one of the things that Noaty kept talking about is that XLM is like number 2 in RWA tokenization. Apparently, it's just under Ethereum, and there's a website that can show you this. And so he said, well, look, we're doing really great for tokenization, and this is something that XRP are talking about doing, but like XLM is already way ahead of the curve in that regard. And so the thing that Micke was saying then, and he said, yeah, but like, look at the volume, like what really is that doing for XLM? Like at the end of the day, is the price really shot up due to this? Is there a incredible volume off of the back of this? And then he said, look, you've got this First Ledger. First Ledger, just to let you know, is like a meme coin platform that's recently released on the XRP ledger. And this has been absolutely incredible for XRP's volume. It's done absolute wonders. And so, he said this has only just come in and already the activity has overtaken the whole of XLM. So you can argue about the tokenization thing, but, XRP completely dwarfs XLM's volume. And that's just on one product. That's got nothing to do with like ODL or anything like that. That's just one product that's only recently come out. And so, I mean, what can you say to that? Like the facts are the facts, right? I completely agree. And this is where, again, like Micke had these points just right there, like to say, yeah, like you're talking about the tokenization aspect, but what has that really done in terms of, like it's good that these things are happening, but what has this actually done in terms of building value for XLM? Like the price hasn't gone up ridiculously. The volume is still low. And so this is where I'm not going to get too much into this because I think this is something I'd rather cover on like a separate video because it's a whole topic of itself. Like tokenization is great, but you've got to understand like it's not just tokenization alone that really brings value to like a network. So I've always said it before because like HBAR are doing a lot of tokenization. Like tokenization is a big deal, but it's not a thing where like just tokenization alone is just going to just drive value. Like there's more to it than that. And so, I thought that was a great point. Again, like, like, there's not really much that can be said there at the end of the day. Like, Noaty was saying, well, the only reason why people are, doing this, like using meme coins is because they've had no activity on the XRP. So they're just now trading meme coins. Look, the thing for me that I'll say about that is it doesn't matter why people are doing it. The fact is they are doing it. Like, let me put it to you like this, right? I'm not someone who really believes in meme coins too much. Like, not saying I wouldn't maybe just put like a quick $10 or $50 on a meme coin just as a cheeky bet. But to me, it's gambling. It's literally just like buying a lottery ticket and you hope you get one that takes off. You never know, like meme coins don't do anything. But at the end of the day, I don't care what brings value to the XRP ledger as long as it brings value to the XRP ledger. So whether I agree with meme coins or not, I don't care, right? It doesn't matter. Like at the end of the day, if it turned out in the end that ODL wasn't the main value driver for XRP and it was meme coins, then so be it. As long as it brings the value, because at the end of the day, that's what's going to bring money, right? Like that's what matters. So again, when you're talking in that regard, it's like, what does it really matter what ultimately brings the value? Whether it's tokenization, whether it's meme coins, like what does it really matter? It doesn't. Like we just want to see things that are going to bring value to the network at the end of the day. So I don't think that's really a good argument in terms of just talking about like the tokenization aspect and you're forgetting the fact that like there's other things that can, also bring value, and then like looking down on meme coins, like to me it doesn't matter. It really just doesn't matter. So moving on. And this is one point that with Noaty, I'll actually agree with him here, to be honest with you. I think this is a fair enough point. Noaty basically said like, when it comes to like people who like XLM maxis, because he admits that he's an XLM maxi, which is fair enough. At least he's honest about it. I can't knock that. I'm not a maxi of any coin, to be honest with you. Like at the end of the day, I'm in XRP, but I've got like 20 different cryptos. So I'm not a maxi of any one coin. I do like XRP a lot. But I'm not a maxi. I'll just be honest with you. But he says like, XLM maxis don't just believe in XLM, like they believe in like Bitcoin, they like Bitcoin, they like Ethereum, they think XLM are better than these coins, but they do believe in other coins. And he says, the XRP maxis only push XRP. Now look, we are generalizing here because I'm a perfect example of someone who doesn't just cover XRP. So you are generalizing, but I do get the general sentiment of what he's saying. Like, when you see some of these people who push XRP, they push it like XRP is the only token you should have. Now, at the end of the day, I'm here to say, look, I'm not a financial advisor, so I'm not here to tell you what you should and shouldn't hold. But I would never just say, just invest in XRP. That's just my opinion. If you used to ask me, what should I invest in? I would never say, hey, just put all your money in XRP. Because look, at the end of the day, if we all just be honest and real, we do not know if XRP will 100% be a success. Or it could be that there's other tokens that actually end up bringing more value, money to you than XRP. That's a possibility. So I do think it's fair to say, XRP maxis, like, and this is the other thing, it's what they push, right? Because this is the other thing that Noaty was saying. It's like, look, like a lot of these influencers are just pushing these unrealistic numbers and talking about like banks using XRP. But you've got like David Schwartz saying like, banks won't necessarily be Ripple's success story. And so like, look, I can't disagree with him there. I do think there's a lot of influencers out here who are pushing absolute nonsense. They don't really understand everything that they're saying, or they're just trying to make money. So they'll just say a load of hype stuff. And I do think that's one of the things with the XRP community that is a bit of a problem, because you've got a lot of people who are pushing things that are not necessarily accurate, or, they're just pushing stuff to make money. And this is what leads to a lot of issues within the XRP community. That's why the actual XRP community within itself is fractured, because you've got two different types of groups within the XRP community. You've got the hype groups who believe, like it's going to $10,000 and beyond. And you've got like the more realistic people who think, that's not going to happen, but XRP can still do well, right? Like it could get to 3 digits one day and stuff like that. I can't disagree with that. One of my big battles is that I don't believe in the hype numbers of XRP, like $10,000 and stuff like that. And I do content all the time, and the amount of people that will try and come in and challenge me, and, and whenever it comes to me having the debate with them, they go quiet in the end, because they can never argue back. This is why I like these debates, because this is the kind of stuff that I'm into. Like, try and show me where I'm wrong. But again, when it comes down to it, nobody can, right? That's generally what happens. And so, for me, I just don't really, agree with some of the content creators out there who push XRP, because, I do think they are misleading people. I really do. But at the end of the day, that's a fair point. That is a fair point. I'm not going to argue on that. Micke didn't really touch on that from what I remember, but I think that's just a fair thing to say. In all honesty, I'm not going to disagree with that whatsoever. Okay, now let's get into the burning of supply. So Noaty talks about the XLM burning supply, and he's saying why this is so bullish. And the reason why he was basically saying that he thinks it's bullish is because, if you look at, like, for example, Bitcoin being high, it's because of the low supply. And this is one thing where, like, I'll be honest with you, like, with this kind of thing with Noaty, I was a bit surprised for him to just say something so simplistic as this, because Vet, like, kind of broke this down really easily, and Micke as well. And I'm surprised he didn't, like, know this already, if I just be honest with you. But, yeah, he was saying like, oh yeah, burning the supply is so great because a lower supply means it's easier to drive the value up. And so, look, XLM have already, like, burnt a load of their supply, right? They've already burnt a load of their supply. But what happened? Nothing, right? Nothing happened. And the reason why is because, and I've explained this with an XRP video, because somebody was talking about burning the supply with XRP, like burning the escrow. And I said, look, that's not going to make a difference. Why? Because it works with supply and demand dynamics. It's not just one, right? So if you burn the supply, but the supply wasn't being used anyway, it's not going to make a difference. The demand has to be there as well. And so when they burnt the supply, it didn't do anything for the price, right? It didn't do anything. And the reason being is because, yes, they've burnt the supply, but the demand wasn't high. So it didn't matter, right? Now, over time, could this play a part? Well, yeah, of course. But at the end of the day, they've got to bring the demand there, right? So, like, let's just say XLM doesn't really do anything to make that chain, hugely popular and create great demand for it. Then the supply is not going to make a difference, right? So when you go to the Bitcoin argument, he's saying, no, the reason why it's gone high is because of the low supply. Well, not just that, right? Like Bitcoin was the very first cryptocurrency of its kind. It was what started all of what we have today with all the altcoins and crypto in general. So yes, like there's other reasons and factors what's played into Bitcoin being popular. Like there's a reason why it's still here at the moment. It's the first of its kind. So to just say it's just because the supply is low, yeah, like you really like putting it into a very simplistic way there. But I agree in terms of the supply, that alone is not, it's not the only reason why the price is high. So again, in terms of the talking about the burning the supply, like you're looking at it from a very simplistic point of view there, Noaty. I have to be honest with you. You're not really looking at it deep enough. Okay, so then we talk about CBDCs, which Noaty said there was apparently a XLM project where they was doing CBDCs, and he said that he thinks that this project failed due to the Ukraine war. Now, this is where Micke stepped in and actually said, like, what you're doing here is a little bit dangerous. And I have to be honest with you, I agree with Micke here. I have to be honest. So he said, look, what you're doing now is like kind of dangerous because what you're doing is you're putting your own assumptions and speculation as a fact as to what you think is like impacting the market or a crypto token. And, you don't really know that as a fact. So you're kind of pushing your views as fact. And I agree. Like the thing for me is like the likelihood that a CBDC project failed due to the Ukraine war, I personally think is pretty slim. I think it is pretty slim. Why? Well, because what's the war really got to do with the CBDC, right? And I don't believe the CBDC was for Ukraine or Russia. So realistically, if it's a completely different country separate to those two, what effect is that going to have on them testing out a crypto project? Do you see what I'm saying? I think the likelihood of that is pretty slim. So, making that assumption, and look, let me just say this, like, let's just say on the other chance that he was right. You don't know that as a matter of fact. So again, you are just drawing your own conclusions. And so when you're pushing that out as fact, you have to be careful with what you say. And this is why with me, with content, I always accept and say like, look, I'm giving you my speculation, right? Like I'm not going to sit here and say everything that I'm saying is a fact, but I will present to you what I think and I'll give you the reasons as to why I think it. I'll give you like facts, data, evidence as to backing up my point. But that's then my opinion from that. The way he kind of presented it was like this was a fact. And I do agree, like, because people who are watching this kind of stuff and watching his content may just assume that that's exactly what happened and that was the reason. And you have to be careful of that because then those people take that as fact. And like, these people are taking this in and thinking that these might be the reasons, but it could be something completely different. So, I have to be honest with you. I do agree with Micke there. Okay, what we got next? Okay, let's get into the non-profit point. So, yeah, one of the things that Noaty was saying was like how he believes, it's so great that XLM is like non-profit because he's basically saying that, Ripple hold all these tokens and can dump on retail. Now, okay, let's just accept the fact that, Ripple do dump on retail. But Vet made a point as well, first and foremost, is that, look, if a network is successful, in the grand scheme of things, it's not going to matter. I agree. And this is the thing I will say as well, and Micke kind of touched on this, but I've said this before. Like, when it comes to having a company like Ripple behind like a network, like as big as Ripple, you've got to take the pros with the cons, right? Because, okay, you could say, okay, Ripple have all this amount of XRP that they can keep, selling to, fulfill their business operations, right? And that's a fair enough point. Yeah, it is a fair enough point. But let's say Ripple absolutely make this great use case like ODL. Let's just say ODL was a roaring success. Well, then you have to ask yourself, was it worth them having this moment of time to keep, selling to retail to fund their operations? Or was it not worth it? Would you rather have not had Ripple here and then we wouldn't have had ODL, right? Because this is one of those things where you can argue it right now because ODL isn't the huge success that's driving huge value to XRP because it's not being a success. But if it was a success, would anybody be complaining, right? Like, let's say ODL was this huge success that really took XRP's value to, high figures. Let's just say it took it to, let's just say $10 to $20, right? Let's just say that happened off of the back of ODL. But let's say they would sell here and there. So let's say that knocked it down from $20 to, let's just say, $18, for example. Are you going to complain? No, right? You're going to be like, well, okay, slightly impacted because of that, but you know what? They've done a huge success for XRP, so who cares? So it's easy to argue that while things are not necessarily going well, but the hope is that Ripple will build out the ecosystem and build out products like the AMM, like stablecoins, like smart contracts, things like this that can help bring value to XRP, right? So it's like, while you can argue that them selling is not great to fund the operations, if they do create something hugely successful for XRP, in the end, you're not going to care, right? You'll be happy because in the end, they actually managed to create something that was so great for the value of XRP. So to me, it's like, what do you want, right? Like, what do you want? You've got to take the rough with the smooth. And so, this is where, like, Micke made a great point in terms of capitalism, right? Like, cause he was saying, Noaty, was saying how, basically XRP, being for profit is a problem, and how XLM being not for profit is so much better because they don't just dump on retail, even though they still do give money for projects on XLM, like the XLM, I believe it's the XLM Foundation, if I'm thinking rightly, but there is a company who help fund, projects as well. But, Noaty's argument is, if you look at the two, Noaty was saying XLM do not give nowhere near as much XLM out as what XRP do in terms of, Ripple selling for their operations. But then Micke says, look, being for profit is just capitalism, right? At the end of the day. And he's saying, like, capitalism isn't necessarily a bad thing. This is what actually helps drive innovation. And he said, look, I actually think it's more of a bad thing that XLM isn't for profit, because the problem with that is XLM will never reach its true potential because they're not trying to make a profit. So there's going to be a limit on how high they can go because they haven't got the incentive to. I thought that was an amazing point by Micke. I have to say, like, that is an incredible point. And, kudos to Micke there, because that was really good. I agree. I absolutely agree. Like, at the end of the day, capitalism is what makes the world go round. And this is the thing. People might not like capitalism to a certain extent, and to a degree, I'm not saying that capitalism is always great, but at the same time, if we didn't have capitalism, a lot of the things that we have in life, we wouldn't have, right? Because if you used to take away the incentive of, a company getting rich or a person getting rich, what desire would they have necessarily to make things? Now, I'm not saying that there's not people out there who wouldn't do things just for the love or just for humanity. Yes, there are people like that. But let's be honest, a lot of reasons why people do make things is because they want to be successful. They want to be rich, right? Like, people out here who are making, like, different things like the iPhone and things like this, like hugely innovation things like computers, when we first had computers and things like that. These are people trying to make a business for themselves. They're trying to make a successful business. So is it so bad that people are trying to make things that are successful? I don't think so. And as he said, with XLM being non-for-profit, it could hinder them, right? Because there might be things where they could try and, like, the network could maybe go real further in terms of, like, the innovation it could do, but because they're not for profit, the incentive just isn't there, right? They might just think, hey, like, we're not really trying to push XLM that much because, we're not making money from this. So there's only so much work we're going to put into this when it's not really benefiting us, right? Do you see what I'm saying? So there is that kind of level of, like, being not for profit. It's good and it's bad. Like, it's great in terms of, okay, we're doing this for the love of it or whatever. But at the same time, there might be a limit, like a floor of where you're willing to go for it, right? Because it's like, hey, this isn't my livelihood. This isn't going to be something that earns me, a living in the end. This isn't going to feed my family. So at the end of the day, like, I'm only going to push this so far. Do you see what I'm saying? And I thought that was an incredible point. I really have to give Micke props on that. Okay, so I'll be honest with you. I think that's pretty much everything I've really covered that I'd really like to cover. Overall, I have to be honest with you, Micke was really great in this. Like, he could tell that he knew exactly what he was talking about, and he actually understood XLM as well, because, like, there was points that he was making about XLM being like not really a very high active chain, and how there's only, like, I think he says there's like 200 wallets, but there's only like 10 wallets or something like that that's really controlling like the main supply of XLM and stuff like that. And he was saying like, you know, that's a concern. And I could tell like he understood XLM as well. So even when he was making these points about XRP, he could actually compare. Do you know what I mean? And I think that was the thing with Noaty, is like Noaty didn't have the same kind of knowledge about XRP. And so when he was making his arguments, he couldn't really compare the two. Like he was able to say real surface level things about XRP, but he wasn't really able to give like real thorough breakdowns. Whereas like Micke was able to compare the two. Do you know what I mean? Because he could say, well, this is what XRP's volume is like, but this is what XLM's volume is like, and this is where the price is for XLM, and this is where the price is for XRP, and this is the wallets for XRP, and this is the wallets for XLM. So like he was able to really compare because he kind of knew both chains. And so, you know, for me, in my personal opinion, I have to give this one to Noaty and Vet. Like they really did come with real factual information, and they really was able to give a much better explanation to like some of the things that Noaty was trying to say. And I do think some of the things that Noaty has are like personal gripes with like Ripple, to be honest with you. And this is one of the things that was said during the debate. Like there was points where like Noaty was kind of tailing off, and like Micke said like, well, this debate is XRP versus XLM. Like now you're kind of going into a whole other debate. And another point where they were discussing Ripple, and Vet said, well, are we having a discussion about XRP or are we having a discussion about Ripple? Right? And like, this is what I mean. Like there was little things where like Noaty was kind of tailing off just a little bit, and like they was having to kind of knock him back on track. So like I do think overall, like, you know, Micke and Vet really like handled this well. And to me, you know, they really did a great job here. But not to say that Noaty did a bad job. He didn't. And, you know, he made some valid points. Not to say that everything he said was wrong, but there was always that comeback. There was always, you know, valid arguments as to why they felt he was wrong. But I just want to say this, Noaty, like, regardless of whether we agree or disagree about XRP, I really respect the fact that you're doing this. I did try to put myself forward for a debate with you as well before, but I get it. Look, I'm a small channel, so you're probably not going to want to do it with me. The only thing I will say with that is, and this is what I think is the shame, is that when you just base things off of like people's follow accounts and stuff like that, I get it for like a business perspective, because, you know, what's going to bring more views. I do understand that, but at the same time, it's like, if you really want to learn, don't just worry about like, you know, how many followers people have got. Like, look at what the actual content is that people are providing, because at the end of the day, let's be honest, there's a lot of influencers out here with big follower accounts, and, you know, they don't even push accurate things about XRP. So, you know, you can go and get the biggest XRP influencer, but some of them are kind of clueless, to be honest with you. So it doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, just because they've got a high follower count, you know, that they've actually got great XRP knowledge. For me, what I would be basing it on is like looking at people's content and what they, you know, what info they bring in and basing it on that. So, look, I get it. I'm not going to, you know, complain about it, but, I'm just saying this because I just want to make it clear that I'm someone who's willing to have these kind of conversations. But I really think this is a good thing regardless, you know, even if it's not me. I think this is the kind of stuff that helps the average people who are watching us understand XRP on a deeper level and see, you know, does this influencer really know what they're talking about, right? Like, do they really understand XRP? Can they really make these arguments and back up the content that they put out? And this is what I said at the beginning. This is what's good, because this is where you'll be able to see the influencers who genuinely understand it and the ones who are just going off of like hype and that kind of stuff. And to me, Micke proved himself to be someone who really did know what he was talking about and understood XRP on a good level. So I'll give him props. Like, there's been odd little things that I've seen from Micke before that I've disagreed with, but I'm not about to sit here and act like he doesn't understand XRP, because he clearly does. In this debate, he clearly showed that he knows exactly what's going on and what he's talking about. So I can't fault that. But yeah, guys, kudos to all of you. Real big shout out. Honestly, I've covered this and adding my own things to the debate, because as you can tell, I'm not able to have the debate with these guys. So I'm just kind of adding in my points like as if I'm there. But I just wanted to give a bit more context to some of this and you know, give you my viewpoints on it. But I really do respect this. I really do. And I hope like Noaty continues to do this more, because I really think these are really informative. Like, I really enjoy them. And I respect the fact that he's willing to do them. Like, he's put it out, and although I think that, you know, he lost the debate, he's not afraid to just put it out there. You know what I mean? Like, and that's what it should be. Like, at the end of the day, this isn't about, the thing is, right, even though I'm saying about like who won the debate, it's not really about winning. It's so that people can learn. That's what it's about. And for me as well, like I've said, if I went into a debate, right, and somebody just like massively got the better of me, the thing I would say is like, oh wow, like I've learned so much today. Maybe I do need to look at things differently. Again, I've not been in that position because I've had plenty of these debates before, but that's the way I would view it, right? Like, to me, it's like, hey, like, you've gave me something to think about now. Maybe I do need to, you know, think about these things. But I'll be honest with you, when it comes to a lot of the hype numbers with XRP, it's so easy to debunk it that I've never had anyone who's been able to tell me what I'm doing is wrong. Like, tell me that what I think is wrong. Whenever it comes to like my comment section, I have the arguments with them, and then, you know, they go quiet. It's always the same story. So I'm yet to be in that position, but I think this is what it's about. It's about us having these conversations and letting the audience be able to see what people think, understand what people think, see who are the people who really understand XRP and, you know, any other cryptos, and really decide, okay, yes, this is what I think is accurate based on this debate, or this is what I think this person, you know, really understands what they're talking about when they talk about this crypto. That's what I think it's about at the end of the day. So I really condone this, and I really hope there's more of it. So lastly, signing off, shout out to Micke, shout out to Vet, shout out to Noaty, shout out to you all. I really thought this was a great watch. I definitely recommend you guys watch it as well. I've covered a lot of the topics, but I'll be honest with you, I think it's a great watch, so I definitely recommend you watch it yourself. It's on Noaty's YouTube channel, so check that out. But yeah, overall, real great debate here. Thank you very much for watching this. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And hit that bell. Take care.